I have Roger Eiteljorg on, and Roger's from originally from Indianapolis, and we're going to go all into that. So, but what is it like to live in Indianapolis, by the way, with that whole, the car scene? I mean, it's a big deal, right?
Great. I'm a car fanatic, so it's great for me. I loved it growing up. I went to all the races I could.
Wow.
It's great. It's the best. Have you ever been?
I haven't. You've invited me once or twice, and I haven't gone, but I would like to at some point just to experience it.
It's unbelievable.
I think it's like
what goes on there. Yeah,
like the Kentucky Derby, right? I mean, it's that same kind of
yeah, it is. It's bigger than the Kentucky Derby, but I've never been to the Kentucky Derby, so I can't really say. But I mean, it's huge. 250, 300,000 people.
Oh my God!
In a 2.5 mile oval, and recently Roger Penske bought it, so it's really looking up. He's done a great job with it, so it's even getting better.
Are the guys that drive, the drivers, are they like superstars in Indianapolis? I know there's certain places.
Well, a lot of them don't live there. Some live there.
No, I know, but when they come, are they like Michael Jordan or Tiger Woods? To that?
Yeah, they are great athletes. People don't think they are, but
oh yeah, they are.
They are. I mean, you going that fast, and they have you can take a trip around the track in a two-person race car.
Yeah.
You go about 180 miles an hour, and I did that once. I did 3 laps. The G-forces on your neck are unbelievable, and those guys, you have to be in such good shape, and the concentration is phenomenal. So and they work out with their necks and it's unbelievable. Yeah, they're really great athletes for sure.
Plus, they have to have like the most insane reflexes. To start with.
Well, I've heard this, and I don't know if it's true or not. They say you really can't blink, because if you blink, something could happen in front of you and you're traveling, I don't know, a football field a second or something like that.
Well, if you're doing it, I'm not sure I would blink. I'm worried about the other end of my process.
I think you'd have to blink, but I don't know if that's true. But boy, that's about what it's like. I mean, going around there and I wasn't going, I was going, let's see, they do about 230 now. So I was going 50 miles under what they normally do, and it was still unbelievable.
So let's talk a little bit. One of the reasons I wanted to have you on is just because I find in this podcast that every once in a while, we find somebody who has a really interesting, not only their own history, but their family history. And for sure, yours falls into this because your dad, Harrison Eiteljorg, started a major museum, which is, one of the largest, if not probably is the largest museum, I would think, of Western and Native material east of the Mississippi. Is
yes, I would say that's for sure. Yeah. Not the largest in the country, but
yeah, but for Western and Native material, that's probably true, right?
Correct. Yeah, I'd say that's right.
Yeah. And when did he found that museum?
1989.
Yeah, so a long time ago, 33 years ago.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, the other museums would be probably the Booth Museum, the James Museum in Florida, the Booth being in.
Those are the 2 latest, I think. I don't know. Yeah. What about the Briscoe? I don't know when that was. That's been around a while.
It's been around a long time. And it's not, it's still not east of the Mississippi.
No. Yeah, the Booth Museum is about the same size, I think, now. They added on.
Yeah.
And that's a very nice museum as well. I've been there. It's great.
And
I think you have, haven't you?
Oh yeah, many times. Yeah, it's fantastic.
It's very nice.
And you guys work with when I say you guys, I mean the Eiteljorg Museum works with.
Yeah, Seth at the Booth Museum. Yeah, and I met the people who started it. Had lunch with them one time. One of the nicest people.
Well, he doesn't like his name out there because he is just such a modest human being. He doesn't want any credit for himself. Well,
he named it after a friend, someone he knew, not after himself. That's pretty amazing.
That's correct. So
yeah, they're really, really nice. Had a great time with them. By the way, I have something to ask you. I saw a video yesterday or today about you wrangling a rattlesnake in front of your house.
Yeah, that's true.
Is there anything you don't do?
Well, not when it comes to herpetology. I'm fine with pretty much everything. I think people just unfortunately, there's a paranoia, and a lot of it comes, when you're a little kid, on snakes and things. And I've always loved snakes. I've always loved all kind of lizards and things. And, I've been around them my entire life. So once you take that fear component out, then you just have respect. It's probably no different than those drivers going around that circle in Indianapolis. They can't be fearful of what they do, or they would have a problem. They have to have respect.
Right, you're right. You're right.
And they have to have knowledge, which they do, but I bet they don't ever feel fearful when they're going around that. And I don't ever
They
feel
can't, or you can't do it for sure.
right. And once you understand, snake, especially rattlesnake behavior and the way that they act, I mean, it's just, there's not anything to be afraid of. Again, cautious, yes. Don't be stupid. Don't do silly things. But yes, I did wrangle one the other day. But it was just moving around. He, it was right in front of my doorway.
He wasn't moving very well. I mean, you got that, whatever that stick is, and he kept slithering back the other way.
Yeah, he wanted to go into the house, and my wife said, "No, please do not." She didn't. She was like, "Would you please move him a long way away?" And I was like, "Sure, I'll move him a couple steps away." But the reality is, those snakes have a territory. They need to live in that territory. If you take them way out, then they will die because they're, you can just imagine
it came out at night to get warmth on your steps, right? I would assume. Yeah.
That's exactly. I was driving and I saw it and I was like, oh, I would have ran over him if I didn't get out and look because right in front of my thing. So yes, I do wrangle an occasional rattlesnake, probably about 5 times a year, 6 times a year. I move them when they're going to get run over. I just get out and I move them.
Lucky you.
Yeah, lucky. Do you have rattlesnakes that you see often?
This is funny. Today, someone working around the house said they saw a rattlesnake here. I've never seen one. He said it was pretty big. I said, great. He said, oh, don't worry. They don't like it where it's moist and everything. They want to go far away and they don't want to be around you. So don't worry about it. But
well, it is actually
to think about it.
It's actually a gift to have them, and I'll tell you why. Because especially in northern New Mexico, you have hantavirus, you have the plague,
right?
All off rats and mice and things. So they decrease you're much more likely to get that and die than you are from a rattlesnake.
Well, true, but we have a lot of bull snakes, so they eat a lot of the mice.
Yeah,
and supposedly they kill rattlesnakes. I don't know if that's true.
They will. They can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if you have road runners, those are the top predators for everything.
I've seen one road runner ever here.
Yeah, that's it. They devastate everything. Yeah, they're the velociraptors of our generation. So, yeah.
I think is that the state bird of Arizona?
New Mexico.
New Mexico and Arizona, no?
No, just New Mexico.
What's Arizona?
I don't know if it's the vermilion flycatcher. I actually don't know that. So that's okay. I know I'm from New Mexico, really, so I know New Mexico. And I know.
I thought it was the same, but anyway. Okay.
And I don't know Arizona. I guess that shows my.
I'll look it up.
Yeah, I'll have to look at. I don't know, but Roadrunner for sure in New Mexico. So you're as a kid when you're growing up, you grew up in Indianapolis, didn't you?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So were you interested in art at all at that time, or just cars, or what was your interest when you were a kid?
More cars at first, but then I sort of by osmosis. The art sort of met artists that he was buying pieces from, and they were very interesting and very eclectic and interesting to talk to. So I kind of got into that. And then the paintings just appeared in the house, and, you just sort of got used to it. I didn't know much about it. I didn't know who the great artists were back then, or I didn't know what I was looking at, but, I enjoyed it. I was told to stay away. Don't touch anything, but no, he started, I think, collecting when he had a business in Steamboat Springs, Colorado. And then
what was that business?
Coal business.
Yeah, he was in coal. Mm-hmm.
And he started, I guess the Western art sort of intrigued him. So that's when he started collecting in the early 60s, which was a good time to collect, because I don't know how the prices compared now to then, but it seems like he had much more things to choose from, because it wasn't as big as it is today, the art market for the Western art. So he did a lot of wrangling. He did a lot of talking. He's traveled a lot out here, went to Santa Fe, and started collecting the Western art. And then people would start coming to him and bringing stuff to him. So he didn't have to travel as far.
Do you remember when? Was it like 1960 that he started, or 60? Do you remember?
I'd say early 60s. Yeah, early 60s he started collecting.
Yeah, I think that was kind of when people started to really look at Western and Native arts about that time. It kind of went on the skids really from about World War II through the mid 60s. So your dad was definitely ahead of time. I mean, like Maynard Dixon stuff didn't really bring a whole lot of money in the early 60s. It wasn't that it was inexpensive, but it didn't bring much.
I guess there was nobody promoting it like there but there should have been, because they had a lot of art galleries in Taos in the early 60s. That was kind of the center, not Santa Fe, which is kind of switched at the moment. But there were a lot of people promoting it, but I guess there weren't a lot of buyers. There were quite a few buyers, but not as many as there are today.
Yeah, and it really picked up when, you have the renewal of interest in Native American, and that really kind of all coincided with Vietnam in the or the late 60s, early 70s, and then places like Santa Fe blew up, Phoenix, Scottsdale, those blew up, Taos even. And then, but by that time, it sounds like your dad was already significantly collecting.
He was. He didn't have a place to house him, so there's an Indianapolis Museum of Art, and he was the chairman of the board there for a number of years. And so they started showing Western art there. He had a gallery that was open, and that was the first time he had a lot of his collection together before the museum opened. So they showed things there, but it was pretty slow growing in Indianapolis. We're really not the West. We were the West. We're not the West anymore. But
right.
A lot of people ask, well, why is the Western Museum in Indianapolis? Because Indiana used to be the West, and my father happened to live there.
It's really the story of one man, if you really, to me, as far as I'm concerned, one man.
Well, he had a lot of help from a lot of other people when he started the museum, but yeah, the basis was his collection and a Native American collection that was also in Indianapolis that they merged together. So when the Eiteljorg Museum was built in '89, they brought another smaller museum that was in town in with that museum, and it had more Native American pieces than he did. And so they kind of joined together.
Do you remember the name of that?
No, I'm trying to think of it as I'm talking to you.
Well, you had the gun, right? That you also got was it the gun collection that came in?
We got the gun collection.
That was later. That was quite a bit later, though, right?
Quite a bit later, yeah. Yeah. We got about 59 pieces for them, kind of melded with my father's collection. He had a lot of Remington, Russells, Farneys.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful collection that was traveling around the country, but the guns were from Cleveland, and they were going to give it to, I believe, the Cleveland Art Museum that switched their focus to automobiles.
Yeah.
So they really didn't have a place to put it. And so luckily we got it, and they endowed it, and it's been a great relationship ever since. Beautiful collection.
Yeah, it's an amazing collection. Did they know your dad at all?
I don't know, but I got a good story with the gun collection. They told me once that someone broke into one of the semis with all the paintings in it, and it said "gunned" on it, and they thought there were guns in there.
Yeah.
So they took a lot of the pieces. Then when they opened them, they realized there were paintings, and I think they got them back. But somebody tried to rob the truck because they saw the word "gun" on them. So.
And isn't it GUNN?
Yeah, no, GUND. But anyway,
I knew it wasn't GUN.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, that shows you the right people out there. But anyway, no, the great collection. We met all the Gunn family. Really great. They've been very generous. So it's been, really added to the collection.
When your dad was starting, do you know if he had a vision right off the bat of, I'm going to do something with this and make it something worthy of putting in a museum, or did he just get bit with the bug of Western art?
I think he got bit with the bug. I think maybe down the road he thought it would be nice to do that, but it was a long road to get there. It was a lot of money had to be raised, and the museum is in a place called White River Park, and there was nothing in there. So it would be the first, not amusement, but venue in the park, and so that was tough. And he had to work with the state and the city, and it was Lilly Endowment, which was very instrumental in getting the building done. And so he worked at it hard. I mean, it wasn't like it just popped out of the air. He did a lot of politicking to get it done.
Yeah, and I want to talk about that because you don't just build a major museum in the downtown of Indianapolis and not have a lot of moving parts.
Yeah, I know there are a lot of moving parts.
Oh, it's just got to be amazing. And that's kind of what I want to get to is how that happens. But when he's building his collection, did he start off with the C start, or did he start off with native art, or do you know what he started with, or living guys?
It's interesting. The first piece I really remember was African art.
Yeah, he had a big collection of that, right?
He had a huge collection that's at the Indianapolis Museum of Art now. he had this bench that looked like a leopard. I kind of remember that, and it's in the museum there now. But I kind of remember that as the first piece. But he actually had somebody by the name of Jack Holliday that was a friend of his that he received a lot of the art from to start his collection, and that really kind of was the catalyst. I think that Jack had a great collection, and so that was kind of the start of his collection. And then he just went from there and got more interested in, traveled to all these different artists and bought pieces. He loved to negotiate. I think that's part of the whole thing. He just loved to negotiate. I don't think they liked to negotiate with him, but he liked to negotiate with them.
And what about, did he like to negotiate with you?
No, there was no negotiation.
In other words, he said whatever he said was the rule.
That's it. You got
it. Bedtime is not 9:30, it's 9.
When that's it, it's over. Yeah. He mellowed as he got older, but no.
And that negotiation, I assume, came from the fact that, he has a pretty significant corporation and lots of people, and he's a guy from the business world, right?
He went to law school. I think he went 2 years, but he didn't graduate. But I think he could be a lawyer. I mean, he knew more than most people did, even lawyers that he dealt with. So, but yeah, we just business person, dealing with everything that he did. But he really enjoyed negotiating. A lot of people have come up to me since and said, "Well, he was tough to negotiate with. There wasn't any fun."
Well, I think probably what he understood is he had the position of power, and there weren't a lot of people that are going to be playing in that high level of art, because he's buying expensive stuff, especially in the early mid 60s. There's just not enough competition. So he is the competition. So he's setting the price structure. And I'm sure many times he broke many world records for what an artist's painting would sell for.
Yeah. I was never privy to that, so I don't know, to be honest with you. But I'll tell you a good story. The museum has a triptych by Wilson Hurley.
Right.
3 big, huge, beautiful pieces that were supposed to go to a developer, I think in Houston. I'm not perfectly sure. But that fell through, so they wanted to know if the Eiteljorg Museum was interested. So Wilson negotiated a deal with my father. And when Wilson's wife found out about it, she said, no, we're not selling it for that. Nope, I'll talk to Mr. Eiteljorg. I'll get this straightened out. So she called him and said, Mr. Eiteljorg, we can't sell it for that. And he said, you're renegotiating? She said, yes, we can't do that. And he said, fine, I'm lowering the price. And he paid the original price he asked for. But I think someone heard her say, that's the worst negotiation I've ever had in my life. It was awful. But anyway, the pieces were there and it was done.
I mean, that's kind of a classic move by an amateur against somebody who does something for a living that way. I mean, they think that because ultimately he can walk away, and how many people are going to buy a triptych of Wilson Hurley that, first of all, it's big, it's huge. You have to have
3 big ones, 3 very big ones.
So the number of people that will buy that is very small. And your father knows this, right? And he knows he's paying
but he didn't reduce the price. He gave him the full price.
No, he was literally
just playing with it. He was having a good time.
I think he was, having a good time and teaching her a lesson. Which
maybe that's true too.
Probably would know that this would get back to Wilson. Well, clearly what happened, and in the future, it would probably, the negotiations might be a little easier and cleaner because it would just be going between him and Wilson probably. Did he buy more pieces from Wilson?
I don't think so. I think that was an unusual situation because the paintings were spoken for and then someone couldn't pay for them. So, I think it was during the 90s or something when the real estate business went really south. So,
but clearly Wilson still had a love for the museum, and I assume your father, because I believe he did the big show that you guys have.
We had one artist show of his, and his wife was from Indianapolis.
Yeah,
believe it or not, because I spoke with him when he was there. He was an interesting guy. His father was Secretary of War.
Wow.
The United States, and his father didn't want him to paint.
No,
and his mother had to hide his lessons, and so he told me all about this. It was fascinating because he always wanted to paint. He was a lawyer, and somebody came to him, and they were dying, and he thought to himself, "What if that would happen to me? What would I do? I want to paint." So he stopped his practice
Hmm.
and went painting full time. And then, of course, I think he died of ALS many years later.
Yeah, he lived to
Lou
be.
Gehrig's disease. I think someone told me that, but he was the nicest person.
Yeah, I think I
Interesting
actually
house.
met him at your museum.
Really, yeah, nice
Where I met
man.
him. Yeah, and he was super nice,
Yeah,
and he's an incredibly talented individual.
yeah. And I didn't know much about him in Albuquerque, but he was a very big artist in Albuquerque.
Oh yes, yeah. And do you know if your dad cherished those kind of relationships with artists? Because
Absolutely.
because he also had a great relationship with George Carlson, didn't he?
George Carlson, yeah. He was one of the sponsors really for George Carlson. And George now he's mostly painting instead of doing the bronzes. But yeah, George is a great guy, wonderful person, been a friend of my father's forever. Always used to visit him when he was in Colorado. And George will tell you he really got him started. It was a symbiotic relationship because helped my father with George's collection. He bought the first two of most of the pieces he did for the number of years that are now at the Eiteljorg Museum. Big one called The Greeting in the front of the Eiteljorg Museum. That's George's. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually bought a little painting of his the other day and kept it.
Just painting?
Yeah, just because I think he's such a phenomenal artist. Yeah.
I don't know. He paints. I've never seen a little one. I've seen some of his pastels, but never a small.
Yeah, I have. I can show you later. But yeah, it's one of those. I think Tamar Hara pieces.
Oh yeah, is that a pastel though?
No, it's an oil.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, that's probably why I kept it.
He was great. His oils now are very big.
They're very big. They're very complex landscapes, and he does he doesn't do many. He probably only does maybe
4 or 5 a year, I'd say.
Yeah, not many, and they bring 80, 100,000 per painting, and I'm pretty sure he sells everything.
Well, and he has a new book.
Is it out now?
Yeah, it's really nice, beautiful book. You should get a copy of it.
Oh, I will, most definitely. I'm a super fan of that guy.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. So.
And would he come to your house and things to visit?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, well, we saw him all the time when we were in Colorado, or he came to Indianapolis when he was there for a show that was opening. So he'd be hanging around, but just we had a one-man show at the Indianapolis Museum of Art. I'm not sure we had a one-man show at the Eiteljorg for him. But.
Does the Eiteljorg have quite a few pieces of his work?
They have a lot of his stuff. They have a lot of his bronzes. I don't know how many they have, but
yeah,
quite a few. Most of his collection is in the museum.
And was there other artists that he had relationships with besides Hurley and Carlson?
I'm trying to think who other. Well, I remember going to Pletka's house once. Went there, but I don't think I saw him that much. I'm just trying to think of. He went with Gaspard. He met Gaspard out here, but he was very old. I think he probably died a few years later.
Didn't he end up buying the estate from his wife?
He bought a lot of paintings from his wife, a lot. And then I said to my father, "Why didn't you buy them all?" Yeah. I mean, and he said, "Well, Roger, if I bought them all, people would know how great he is, and it wouldn't get out. So I don't want to corner the market." I thought, that made sense.
It does.
I might have been greedy and wanted to buy them all, but he didn't. So he bought some good ones for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure he cherry picked it.
Yeah, he did.
Well, clearly, to be able to pull George Carlson early on and go, this guy's a really, a great artist, he had to have the eye. And I know he did because I've seen what he's bought. But do you know where he got that eye? He
was a frustrated architect.
So there it is.
He liked to really design. He never. I don't think he ever. Maybe he built a house, but not really built any buildings. But when he built the museum, he worked with an architect that was in his 20s at the time. And they had, it was kind of an interesting relationship. And so my father kind of picked what he wanted to do for the museum because of his architectural background. He just had this thing, and maybe that's where he got his eye from, because he certainly had a good eye.
Yeah, I mean, that's an artist. So he's a frustrated artist is what he is.
Possibly, yeah, in a way, yeah, I'd say so. He was, he liked working on buildings and looking at things, but he never really built anything. And Jonathan Hess, that worked with him, the architect, was very interesting that the two of them got along so well, because my father probably told him what he needed to do. but and they worked well, and the museum's beautiful. They did a beautiful job.
Yeah, no, it's an amazing.
I mean, in the beginning, it was pretty funny because a lot of people were intimidated by it because they thought, "What is this? You know, it looks like a building from the Southwest,"
Right.
and they just couldn't relate to it. But that's changed over the years, and we've added on, and you know, it looks like something from the Southwest, but it's a Southwest museum, so it should. But nothing like it in Indianapolis for sure.
Well, and you actually have an Indian market gathering every year, right?
Right. I think we just celebrated the 30th year.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did that get going? Since we're there.
Well, you know, all the other museums had it, and we're kind of the newer museum, so you have to pick a date.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can't step on somebody else's dates when they have their museum. So the Herd has one. You know, all the other museums that we decided would be a good idea. But most of the artists have to go a long way to get to Indianapolis.
Right.
And that's a big trip for them. And the other problem is it's in June, very humid, and they're not used to that humidity, and it can be very, very warm. But I think they've all done well, and a lot of people have embraced it in Indianapolis, and we get a pretty good crowd every year.
And it's like an Indian market, right? You have
we have all these Native American vendors that come from not only from the Southwest, but from the Midwest, from the East Coast, and sell their pieces. You know, and then we have prizes, and so
and you have powwows. They do the whole thing, dances, and
they have dancing, they have everything. Yeah.
Is that like great. A weekend deal, 2 days?
Yeah, June, near the end of June, third week in June usually.
Yeah, I've never been, but I need to just to experience it.
It's pretty big. I mean, we have like 100 and something vendors.
Yeah, no, I see it advertised, and you know, I think it's a critically important component for Native exposure for artists, and you're doing it again in Indianapolis.
Well, it's a new base for them,
right?
And they're all the artists are very appreciative of what we do because it's another place for them to sell their wares, and they usually do very well. I think they did very well this year. Yeah.
And let's talk about while we're there, the Quest of the West, because is this like your 17th year or something like that?
15th, I think. 15th year.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it's 15th. I have an invitation. I don't have it here, but yeah, 15th year. So this is another case where we wanted to do this, and the only dates open were in September. Right. So it's like the 8th, 9th, and 10th, or 9th, 10th, and 11th of September this year. Always like the second.
Always that, right? Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Which is actually a nice time, I think, in Indiana.
Yeah, it's beautiful that time of year, and we have 50 artists, and each one paints maybe 3 or 4 pieces, and then it's a draw. And the price is fixed. They draw your name out of a box, and you can buy it, or goes to the next person if you don't. Well, it's one of our biggest fundraisers. I think we sell over $1 million worth of art.
Yeah, and it's invitation only for the artist. You can't just go, "Oh, I want to be in this." I mean,
no, you know, they have
a process to even get in, right?
The Western Art Society, they have meetings after the event is over and decide what should we do, who should we get, and we need some new artists. Some artists are leaving, have different reasons for leaving, so we replace them. So it's to get new people, and the great art that's there. You know, you can see it online before. You can even bid, by telephone, or you can put a bid in for it. But if you put a bid in for it, you have to buy it if it comes up. That's the only caveat for that. And then they have on Friday, they have a miniature show. So some of the artists have miniatures, and they sell the miniatures on Friday night, and Saturday night is the event. Then they have a dinner.
Yeah, if people can't go to that, though, they could still buy online, couldn't they? If they buy
right, yeah.
You just have to
Saturday night they have the show, the thing, and then they have awards for People's Choice Award. And the Western Art Society always buys a painting, puts it in the museum's collection. So
also, you have every year one artist gets kind of a one-person show, right? You select them, and then next year, because I think Pete Nesbitt, who I represent, did it, and I think Howard Post may have gotten it as well.
Kurt Wolfers did it once,
and that could be a game changer for an artist too. I think to have this one-person show in a museum, all dedicated to them.
Right. Yeah. it's great to have that.
That's something different than others. The Autry doesn't do that. No, none of the other places that do these museum shows, as far as I know, do something like that.
Probably not. And it doesn't happen every year for that. I'd say maybe every other year. It just depends. And sometimes the artist can't commit to doing that because he's committed, and then he has to round up pieces of his from his collectors.
Right.
All
That's a
kinds of
big
things.
deal to get it all. I
Yeah.
know.
There's a lot to go on that's getting it done. And but it does very well for the museum. And then the other thing we have, every 2 years we have a contemporary Native American show where we award prizes to 5 Native American artists.
Mm.
And in November, and that we have probably, I've been told, one of the finest contemporary Native American art collections in the country, because we've been doing it for over 20 years.
Mm. And those prizes are what? Do you know?
$20,000
each?
Yes.
That's a big deal.
It is a big deal. And we get a lot of very interesting art for sure.
Yeah.
And we buy a piece every year, and it works out very well.
And when you say contemporary, does that mean it has to be modern, or does that mean it just needs to be by a living artist?
Well, most of the artists are living, yes, but it's something that is, well, it's interesting. I don't know. It depends on the definition of contemporary. They could have done it over the years, but mostly it's pretty avant-garde.
Yeah, I mean, because you can have a Tammy Garcia, who's a potter and a bronze maker.
We could.
And she would fit,
right. Yeah, she would fit.
Modern.
She would fit there. A lot of them are some of her are huge pieces. Some are installations. I mean, it's all over the board. It's very contemporary.
Do they get 20,000 and they buy the painting on top of that?
No, they usually buy maybe a piece or two. It just depends. But no, they get the 20,000, and some of their pieces are for sale that people can buy them as well if they want to. And the museum usually buys maybe 1 or 2 pieces and adds it to the collection.
Yeah, who started that? Because that is very much. I mean, right now that's everyone else is catching up to this.
Actually, I think it was with Lilly Endowment came to us and thought that this would be a great thing that we could do, and they helped us sponsor it. They sponsored. I mean, they've been so nice to the Eiteljorg Museum that you can't imagine. We're so lucky we're in Indianapolis and they're in Indianapolis, that they support all the arts, and it's just a great endowment that I can't say enough about them.
Yeah,
what they've done for us.
And so that's been going, and that's every November, and it's 5 artists, right?
Usually 5 artists, yeah.
And so you have enough now art from this that you guys could actually put on a traveling show of just your contemporary Native art.
I think they've talked about doing that, to be honest with you. I think some of it has traveled. I think some pieces went to the Crystal Bridges too, because they're American art, so that's American art.
Right. Though they're way behind, in my opinion, in Natives art. So they're trying
it's a beautiful. You've been there.
One of my favorite. I love that.
Oh, it's gorgeous place.
I love that museum. I highly encourage anybody to go see it. Not only for the building, but the art is amazing. But until of just recent, they really haven't, I don't think, embraced the Native arts, though they're trying and they're doing it. So it's good to hear that. When
I was there, I think they had a show of somebody, but I don't remember who it was. But no, it's unbelievable. I think about going to Bentonville. I went, what? Bentonville? But boy, that's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. The town, the Hotel 2021, Hotel 21.
Yeah.
I mean, right? It's wonderful.
It's amazing. It's amazing for all those people in that area.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they're bringing world-class American art to the Midwest, basically.
Yeah. And when I was there the last time, I've only been there once, they had a big Chihuly show outside of all this glass lit up at night.
Wow.
Fabulous. Yeah.
That's dangerous in Arkansas. Tornado Alley.
You're right. Yeah.
Well, the time I was there, it was like tornadoes were all.
Oh, really? No, I was there.
We were hunkered down inside of a tornado shelter.
Oh, really? I was there in October. It was great. Beautiful.
So getting back to your dad a little bit. So he starts collecting this mainly Western art, and I assume some Native art at that time too. And
yes.
Yeah. So it's
sprinkled in there, more Western art than Native art.
And at what point do he goes, okay, I got a lot of art. I got so much art, I can't do anything with it. He starts loaning it to the Indianapolis Art Museum, but at some point he has to have said something happened for him to go, okay, I'm going to do my own museum. Either he was going to give it to the Indianapolis Art Museum and that didn't work out, or what happened that he goes, okay, I'm going to do this.
That's a good question. I don't really know. I don't know. He didn't get what I wasn't privy to that, involved in that discussion. I don't know. I think maybe someone came to him and said, you have a great collection. He was pretty much under the radar then. Nobody really knew who he was, to be honest with you, till this museum came up. No, they didn't know much about him. And maybe somebody found out and said, this would be a great thing to have. I don't know. He was very good friends with the then governor and Whitcomb. And I really don't know what happened. Maybe he decided he wanted it not to give it to the Indianapolis Museum of Art because he wouldn't have control. Yeah. But with his own museum, he would have more control. And so
clearly that was important to him.
Yeah, he liked to be in control. But he had a great collection. And of course, it's been added to a lot since he gave that. But
and that opens in 89, right?
June of 89, yeah.
Okay, so let's go to the process, because that had to take it. I mean, it's a major building. There was nothing there. He has to go through all the hoops to get it. So that must have taken a minimum, I would think, 5 years and maybe more. 7.
Yes, and then even more so, there was a controversy about the site. There was an old school there, and they were tearing the facade down, and all these people got upset, and so it was interesting. It took a while. Yeah, it took at least 5 years. You had to get a director early on to oversee everything, and then transferring the art and legal issues of giving them all these things, and the grand opening was in June '89, and the mayor was there, the governor was there, the senator was there. It was a big deal.
How old were you when that opened?
40, I think.
You were 40.
Yeah.
And what did you think about, because you got the same last name. So, I mean, there's some responsibilities that come with that, whether you want it or not.
That's true. Yes. I mean, I'm lucky I have this name. It doesn't mean I'm any more special than anyone else. You have to be a little more careful, of course, because you don't want to give the impression of that you're special, because you're not. Big deal. I have to have the same. It's nice when you go places sometimes and they recognize the name, but
yeah, I mean, I've known you for, I don't know, at least 25 years, and I know
at least.
Yeah, I know you're a very humble guy, and that's not something that you even really want to embrace in the sense of, your last name. But I'm looking at the other end where, you're getting, people are going, oh, you're such and such, or that name, and you don't have any choice in that matter.
Well, no, but it's interesting. When I go with Mindy, my wife, to some of these galleries, she goes, don't tell them your last name.
Yeah.
I don't want to be there talking about this. So
right. Plus they probably, go, oh, he'll buy art. And so we want to engage him in that standpoint. And we both know that you're more a patron of the arts. That's really your thing, is to be a patron of the arts.
Right. But no, I like talking to people about it. It's because it's good advertising for the museum, and I get very positive, response from people. I've been there. I loved it. It's great. Thank you. All these kind of things. Yeah.
It's fantastic.
I mean, most people, there's people out here that I know, New Mexico, never been there. And then they end up going there. They go, oh, I just can't believe it's in Indianapolis in the collection. I've had people come up to me and say, I saw this painting in there. It was a Blumenschein. I've been looking for that my whole life. I never knew it was there at the Eiteljorg Museum.
Wow.
Things like that. So that, makes you feel good. That's good. But I had nothing to do with that. I just, happen to have the same last name, and I want to be an ambassador for the museum.
Yeah.
But we all the family does. So that's what I try to do.
But you've been intimately involved with the museum for decades, right?
Yeah. I was a president. I was really lucky. I was a president in 2008, when all the terrible financial stuff happened.
Yeah.
So that, I said, I don't want it. They go, no, you don't have a choice. You're going to be the president. It's your turn. I go,
Not to mention, did you still have your business at that time?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I still
So you're doing cars, dealing in cars and
car
things.
business, construction business, some legal work. Yeah.
So everything is getting slammed on your end,
Absolutely. Yeah.
and you
So
have
it
to
was
deal
good,
with
but
it.
we've had Jonathan Osdale's been the director of the museum. He's just announced his retirement.
I
don't know
got
if
the
you got
email yesterday, I think.
yeah, next year, and having him there made things so much smoother and so much easier. So he
Yeah.
does such a great job. Did such a great job. So wonderful. He's raised so much money, and I'll tell you, I've told him this. It's a funny story. When we had hired a national firm to go out and get a new director. We had 3 candidates. Nobody was enamored with any of them, to be honest with you. In fact, I abstained. Someone told me I can't abstain, so I put it for somebody. And then that person who we decided on had all these demands that were ridiculous, so we got rid of him. And then somebody brought up the name John Van Austdale, and so I went with 2 other people to interview him, and I thought, he's a really nice guy. I liked him. I'd never met him before. He worked at the Children's Museum.
Yeah.
And I thought, can he raise money? That's the big job of a director.
Major,
Big job,
really,
major job. And I thought, well, I don't know. So anyway, he was chosen. I was very happy with that. And then many years later, I told him, John, boy, was I wrong. You're so good. You pick these people's pockets and they thank you. I mean, I was totally wrong, but he's unbelievable. We just finished raising 40 million, raising our endowment to $40 million.
So that's an endowment that you have now?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. What would your dad think about that? What would his?
He didn't endow it with that much. He did endow with a little bit, but nothing like that.
What would he think of how it's
I
progressed?
think he'd be pretty amazed, to be honest with you, how well we've done with, and then we've had many donors give many millions of dollars to that museum. I mean, and it just astounds me. And some in our backyard that we never knew were even there, and we're collectors, all of a sudden come and say, wow, we really love this place. And, it's been great.
Yeah, it is a really interesting museum.
Yeah.
Now, you have moved from Indianapolis a few years ago to New Mexico, northern New Mexico, up in Taos. And you've kind of taken on some of those same stewardship with the Taos Art Museum, I believe, right?
Right. Yeah. I'm on the board of the Taos Art Museum, which is basically the Feshen house.
Yes.
Nikolai Feshen lived here for 6 years, I think. Seemed like longer, but he did. Built this house that's unbelievable. Yeah. He was a carver. He was a painter. He's a Russian painter. And it's a beautiful place. There are a number of museums here in Taos, a lot of museums for a small town like this.
Well, I would say it's got the most significant museums for a town that size anywhere in the country. Because what is it? Maybe 6,000, 7,000 people live in Taos?
The city, but the county is about 39,000. But we've got
the city itself is
6 or 7 museums.
Yeah. Yeah. So you have the Harwood, you have
Millicent Rogers, the Cow Sharp, the Bloom and Shine. We actually have the Kit Carson, but I'm not sure it's open at the moment.
Yeah. Which is actually a really nice little.
Maybe forgetting. Yeah, that's a lot. And they're all great. They all have a different focus and it attracts a lot of people here.
And your wife has been actively involved, Mindy.
She's was on the board of the Millicent
Rogers, right? Which is actually also one of my most favorite museums.
Yeah, she was I don't know where the money came from, but she was a big collector of jewelry, mostly jewelry.
Yeah.
She died in her 50s, pretty young, but best thing is she used to travel with 19 dachshunds.
I can't even imagine.
No, I can't imagine. But anyway, no, it's a great museum, and it's close. They're all pretty close to each other. So if anyone ever comes here, you should go visit them all. It'd be an
interesting day. Museums work together. It seems like
they do. They do. And the Harwood is part of the University of New Mexico. And it's more. I'd say they're more contemporary, but they have a great show there right now. The Tia Collection.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable, this show that's there now. It's really, really, I just went through it last week. It's great.
Yeah, that's the one of the Taos, mainly of Taos and Santa Fe artists.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
The book that has the book that goes along with it.
Right.
That collection is insane.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just an amazing that I've seen that show. It's traveled a few times, and
Really? Okay.
it's every time it just blows me away. So they have that. The Harwood has that right now.
Right now, yeah.
Yep. And so does the Taos Art Museum have, it has a annual event too. Does that come
Yeah,
up?
this August 27th this year, we have a gala where
Yes.
we have auction off pieces and dinner and just for one night. Richard Lampert's the auctioneer. He's very instrumental in helping us get it done. And we have a lot of beautiful pieces of art. We've done very well with it over the years, although we haven't had it in 3 years.
So this will be the first time in 3 years that
right. Yeah, we were going to have it last year, but decided not a good idea.
Can people go online and buy things too, or do they have to go to?
I think you can. Yeah, I think you can bid on it. They have some really nice, beautiful pieces. They got a big John Moyers this year, and
Nice.
can't remember some of the other ones, but yeah, it's a good, nice event. Sit down dinner.
Do you ever kind of think back and reminisce about what it was like to, grow up in a home filled with just this magnificent art? I mean, I know it's not your art, it's museum's art.
Well,
but just to be around it, absorb it all the time.
Well, I laugh because when I go to the museum, they handle everything with white gloves, and
Right.
they move this kind of stuff. I used to pick it up, and there's a beautiful fashion called Pietro. It's at Eiteljorg that my father bought. It used to be in our den when I ate dinner. I mean, honest to God, I thought it was a woman and it's a man. And I met that person's grandson here. Yes. I had no idea who it was. And I laugh and say, oh, we used to have food fights in the room and probably ketchup and mustard on it, but you can't see it or something. But that's what I get a kick out of, because I didn't know what those things, the value, I didn't know what they were. My father said, all right, I'm hanging some paintings, let's go. So I'd walk in the room with him, I'd take one down, take the nail out. Okay, put it in there, hammer the thing in, hang the painting, take it down, take it and put it somewhere.
So he didn't try to educate you in the sense of, oh, this is what it is, or this is where it came from, or this is a famous artist. It was just,
He may have, I don't remember that. I think I got it mostly by osmosis. I started to become interested in it, so I started reading about it, reading the books and, understanding the different artists.
And when did that happen? Did that happen in your 30s?
Yeah, probably I would say that. Yeah. I mean, I'd go on the trips with him very occasionally. I go on a trip with him to visit some artists, but not that often. And then I'd go on a trip with him and say, I really like that artist. I think I'm going to buy that. And he goes, no, you're not buying it. Well, I'll give you some. I'll give you some when we get home.
Yeah.
I go home. I go, okay, what do you give me? And nothing. So I'd have to go behind his back and buy it. I did that only once, but no, I just, he said, no, I could, what am I going to do? But anyway.
Right.
Well, he was very generous, but, he never sold any of his art.
Yeah.
And I doubt if he ever traded very much. I don't remember him ever trading. He just kept everything. I mean, he did not, a lot of people who collect will trade up and down.
Right.
He kept everything. Yeah, he didn't sell one thing that I can remember. Nothing. I mean,
well, I think he probably just loved it, first of all, and two, each one of those was a negotiation that he won. Piece, right?
Well, it's funny because people ask you about, my father gave me a painting. It really didn't have a hook for me. He bought it. When did he buy it? I don't know anything about it. But if you buy it, you remember where you bought it, when you bought it, the circumstances. And then when you look at that painting, you go, that brings something back to me. I remember something. So it's better to get it yourself than have somebody give it to you. And then it has more meaning to you, I think.
Oh, for sure. And do you think, did you ever have any conversations with him when the museum was finally up and all these works that he spent an entire lifetime accumulating that are now not in his house, that are not in his dining room,
right,
are all in the museum, and he's walking through? And I mean, did you ever get a sense, or did he talk to you about what his feelings was? Because they had to be pretty intense, really.
No, he never really did. But a number of times there were some young kids in there, and he got a real kick out of that. It really brought a tear to his eye about how these young kids were coming and enjoying his art. I mean, he really was very emotional about that, to be honest with you, as he walked through. But, most of his stuff was in his office before that.
Mm.
And he'd have people over and they'd have parties and show off his art. But when he gave it, I was disappointed. A lot of them I'd like to have.
I'm sure.
It's a beautiful Victor Higgins that I'd love to have. And I see it in the museum. I go, that used to be in our dining room. And, it was nice. I mean, you see this stuff after a while. I mean, it's just kind of like, wow.
Yeah.
You get
Well,
really spoiled.
I would guess part of it is it's a lot easier just to do it all as one and not try to make those emotional, oh, do I give it here or do I give it there? Just being able to say, okay, it's everything. I'm not holding back. I'm giving everything.
Yeah, no, I think it made him feel good that he did it, and a lot of people that contributed to it, that was part of that he would have to do that. And he did give most of what he had. They're really wonderful pieces of art. And they travel around the country. Some of them are too fragile. The Pietro can't travel because it's
Ketchup stains and all the stuff that's got on it.
Yeah, that's it. But the Impasto, it's just too thick. The paint is cracking. But just gorgeous. We have some beautiful pieces, but it's loaned out, and we borrow things from other museums. We've had a few traveling shows, but
was there ever a doubt that he would put his name on it, on the museum? Did he ever?
It's funny. At one point, we were having some, issues with the museum, and he said, if it has to become part of another museum, I'm fine with that. And I remember him saying that, but that never happened. And so no, I mean, it's a strange name. It's hard to pronounce. Everybody asks me, how do you pronounce it?
How do you
And I said,
spell
my
it?
father did one way, my mother did another way, and I do another way. So
Right.
pronounce it any way you want. I don't care.
Uh-huh.
And you always have to spell it. So,
Well, and
if it was
even
if it was Indiana Western Art Museum, it'd probably be easier than Eiteljorg.
well, even for him, I would imagine having his name on there was also the same thing as like, God, now everybody knows who I am. And maybe not in a great way, because I get the impression he kind of, in a weird way, liked to just kind of fly under the radar. And the only people he was really wanted them to know his name were the dealers, right? And the artists.
That's probably true. But when I went to law school, my law professor said, don't name anything after yourself.
Uh-huh.
If something goes wrong or something bad, it's it. So, but it worked out for him. He would have changed it if things had turned out differently or something. He didn't have a problem with that, but I think it's great. I'm glad it did the way it should be. He worked hard getting, most people think, oh, just because you have money, you can buy this stuff. No, you have to have a good eye. You have to be at the right place. You have to find these places. They don't just come to you. A lot come to you, but that's not true.
You also have to get in the pecking order, right?
Right.
And with dealers, I mean, dealers can sell art to a lot of people, even in that time frame. If it's a great piece, there's a lot of people, and he may have negotiated, but he also made it where the dealers go, okay, we're going to go to Harrison first.
Right. Exactly. He kind of, in a way, made things because people would come to him and ask his opinion about something.
I'm sure.
Is this a good piece? Should I buy this piece? How do you feel about this?
I'm sure they would.
And so he, in a way, kind of made the market in a lot of things because he was such an expert at it.
Yeah.
And he had such good examples of all the pieces, and he'd probably seen that piece and maybe he didn't buy it. Maybe, wasn't presented to him, but he had a lot of dealers come to him, and particularly the African dealers. They would come and spread their stuff on his office parking lot.
Right.
I mean, you've never seen so much art in your life. And he would maybe buy a lot of it just to get a few pieces. And they'd hang out in his office for 3 days. These dealers, he'd say, all right, come on, I'll talk to you for a while. Okay, I'm busy. Come back in, an hour or something like that. And it was just, sort of like there were drums out there. They know this man's collecting African art, and they showed up at his office.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, they know, all those dealers know who to go to.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Do you know?
You have to find that stuff. You just can't sit back and wait for people to come to you.
Right. That's right. And do you know if he had any specific dealers that he really liked to work with?
He worked with Rudy Wunderlich.
Yeah.
Jerry Peters.
Yeah.
Forrest Fenn.
Hmm.
There was a guy in Chicago that he bought a couple of George O'Keeffe's from. Really an interesting guy. I'm trying to think of his name at the moment. I can't, but he was a real character. He used to come down in a limousine from Chicago, and big Irish guy with a big booming voice. It was great. I mean, but
He comes down with his limousine with a George O'Keeffe on one side.
George O'Keeffe.
Yeah.
Yeah, sold it to him. That was a good coup for him to get those, and they're at the museum. So
Yeah.
But I'm trying to think of the other ones. Oh, there were a lot of them, I'm sure, but
He probably worked with the Biltmore Gallery.
he may have. I never know. I know who that, and they usually have great art. Biltmore.
Yeah.
Is it still the Biltmore?
So yeah, he sold it, and his name
Yeah.
escapes me at this moment, but he's passed on, and it was sold, and they moved it out of Scottsdale, and it's in Colorado Springs, a very lovely museum.
No, they had great works of art there. I'd always go there and look there because fabulous. Yeah.
When
He
did
may
he,
have.
when did he quit buying? Do you know when your dad kind of said once the museum was going, was he
No,
done?
he kept buying. No, I remember going in his office, way after. Well, he died 97, so not many years after the museum was built. But there was a Blumenschein in his office on the floor, leaning against a chair. It was Native Americans playing baseball, and I thought, "You're buying this now?" What I mean, yep, he bought it. It's in the museum.
It is in
He
the
never
museum?
stopped.
Yeah.
He never stopped.
But
And he collected a lot of European art.
Uh-huh.
He had a lot of European art too, because he used to go over and travel there with my mother, and they'd meet all these artists and buy that art as well. I mean, he loved it all.
He loved art. He
Yeah.
clearly loved art. And the realities are that you do too. I mean,
I do too.
Think about it. You've spent at least probably the last, almost 30 years being intimately involved in the arts.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I've met
a lot of house, and you don't have to, being involved in any of that stuff. You're
No, I like it. I like it.
You like it.
I have a good friend here in town, Bill Eiteljorg.
Yeah.
He's a great artist.
Yeah.
He and I hang out together. He likes cars. I like cars. I go over and visit him at his house. And, and if you know his paintings, he's so meticulous of what he does. I said,
Right.
Bill, how the hell do you put those beads on this mug? How do you do that? I mean, I wouldn't have the patience to do it.
Right.
Because Roger, people will call me on the phone when I'm doing that. And they say, "Oh, sorry, Bill, I'm sorry. Did I wake you up?" Like he's asleep because he's just in the zone. I mean, just a really, so he's interesting. And I know John and Terry Moyers very well. They were here. They've moved to California.
Yep.
And there's a lot of great artists out here. They're all over the place.
Yeah.
And everyone in Taos is an artist, jeweler or something. I'm not. I can't draw a straight line, but everyone else around here is. So there's a lot of that, a lot of shows, a lot of.
Yeah, but you clearly like the creative types. I mean, you have dealers that are friends, you have artists that are friends. I would probably pose those are some of your best friends, actually.
Yeah, because we have a common interest.
That's right.
And it's interesting, and they're interesting. They're very interesting people, artists, because they're very eclectic. As you know, you deal with them all the time.
Oh yeah, I love artists. I just love artists. I just
it's a different point of view than I have because I'm not an artist. So
well, they see the world differently, which is what
I
love about it. It's just and anybody that donates their life to creating, right off the bat, that's a different kind of human being.
And it's a very difficult life. It's a very difficult profession.
Yeah,
I mean, you're only as good as your last sale. You have to promote yourself all the time. You have to be at the gallery opens. You have to meet all these people. You could be the greatest artist in the world. Doesn't make any difference. I mean, maybe, in your later life, but going up there, boy, that's
I mean, your dad could have come to an artist and go, nah, he's no good. And that could affect him. Boom. That artist is gone, not that he would do that, but it could happen. There are people there that have enough power in the art world that I think it happens more in contemporary art, places like New York City, where you're in or then you're out, and it can be maybe not even have anything to do with your art as much as just the social parameter.
It's the promote. Somebody's got to promote you.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to tell you this is a great piece of art. You have to believe them or not. And if you do, great, but don't buy it just because somebody tells you it's going to be a great piece of art. If you don't like it, who wants it in your house?
Yeah,
If you don't like it, don't buy it. I don't care what somebody tells you about it.
that's right.
Because it may go down or may go up, but at least you're enjoying it while the time that you own it, and you're just the steward of that piece of work, because it's when something happens to you, it's going somewhere else.
Yeah, that's right. No, that's true.
It's not yours permanently.
Even as an art dealer, I feel that way. I don't buy art to sell just because I go, oh, I'm pretty sure I can do well and make a lot of money on this. Yeah, I don't want it in my gallery. First of all, I don't want to sell it to one of my clients that if I really dislike the piece or don't like that artist's work, I don't want that. I don't want it to end up that I was the guy who sold it. And also, I just don't want to be around it.
Yeah, well, and if you try to sell it, there's a price to pay for selling it in the future. Either it goes to the auction or it goes to a dealer.
Yeah.
You have to wait a long time.
Yeah.
If you're lucky, it'll do well.
Yeah, unless it just happens to be somebody that sometimes they do well.
Right. Lucky you.
Lucky you. Well, the real beauty of it is you got to live with it.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, that's
you look at it, you go by, it reminds you of what you bought or who talked to you, whatever the reason. Yeah. You have a great collection of things. Look at your gallery every day. You go in and see different things. It's great.
Yeah. No, I love buying art. I mean, I love buying it, handling it, being around it.
And not only that, you write books. I've read maybe 3 or 4 of them. Yeah, they're very good. I enjoy them. I do them books on tape when I'm driving somewhere.
Yeah.
I listen to them. They're good. I haven't read them all, but I think 3 or 4 of them.
You only got 5 more to go, so that's all
How many have you done?
9.
Wow.
I know, that's what I say.
Yeah. That's hard to do. Hard to sell them.
Yeah, the fiction. You don't do it to make money, I can assure you. I mean, 1% of writers make money.
Pretty tough. Yeah.
I would say it's actually almost impossible. Yeah, it's a very, very difficult life.
Well, I like them because it's about New Mexico.
Yeah.
And I like things about New Mexico because I don't know that much about it. And so I learned a lot about it, but no. And I think you have it pretty much down as to what it's like out here for sure.
Yeah. Well, you write what you know, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So I don't write about people I know, but the characters are still the same characters. You can
there are characters out here. Woo.
Yeah.
There's characters for sure.
I mean, there are. New Mexico is a very eclectic group of individuals, especially Taos.
Yeah.
Because it's just a little different off the grid. And, it's always been that way since the 60s, since Papa was up there. I mean, it's just always.
Well, George Carlson used to live here. Kurt Walters lived here.
Yeah. You have Mark Maggiore lives there now.
Yeah, I think he's here now. Yeah.
I mean,
I don't think Moyers lived here. Maybe they did too.
No, I don't think either.
Only Santa Fe. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, there's a lot of people who moved here for the pandemic, and we always say we'll see how long they last, because it's not your typical place to be, and things don't happen as smoothly as you want them to.
Right.
You just have to bear with it. Either you can handle it or you can't. And the other thing is there's supposedly some kind of hum here that people hear.
I've heard that before.
Yeah, that you hear the hum and it brings you here, and then somebody else told me once, you don't pick Taos, Taos picks you.
I kind of believe that, honestly.
I mean, because it's different. It's really different. And
I don't know if I could live in Taos, honestly. I know I can live in Santa Fe. I think I could live in Taos, but I don't know that for a fact, because I know what Santa Fe is like, and Taos is not Santa Fe.
Well, Santa Fe is not very far away, so you go there. We have a lot of friends in Santa Fe. We go down and visit from time to time.
But it's still not.
No, this is a small town, but it has everything you need. Great skiing. There's a nice golf course here. Hiking, you name it.
Yeah, good Mexican food.
Very good Mexican food.
Yeah, and for me, the thing that would bring me is the arts. I think it's much more. I do think the imagery, just from looking at the imagery, is way more compelling than Santa Fe.
Absolutely.
The Taos Mountains, you have the Taos Pueblos, you have the Rio Grande Gorge. You have complete flatness, and you have things that are. I mean, it's just from a standpoint of just imagery, it's one of the most beautiful places.
Well, the light here, they have a couple of videos out there on YouTube about painters of Taos, painters of Santa Fe, painters of Albuquerque.
Right.
And I think the one from Painters of Taos really talks about the light. The light here is unbelievable. I mean, the sunsets are beautiful, but the reflection, the colors on the mountains,
No, it's amazing.
it's out of this world. And, rarely are two times the same. It's just absolutely astounding. You just can't believe it. And it never comes out in the picture. I mean, last night the moon came up over the mountains. They have full moon.
Yeah.
You try to take a picture of that, forget it.
Yeah.
Blurred out, but it's just it's fantastic. This dark outline of the mountains and this white orb coming up. It's absolutely
very little light pollution where you are, first of all.
Nobody has outside lights on, and kind of they frown on that. So you get a lot. And I think tonight is the Perseus meteor shower or something. What
Yeah,
it's called?
is it? Yeah, Perseus meteor shower. Oh, that's cool.
Tonight is the best night apparently. So I'm gonna hopefully wake myself up and go look at that, because the sky here is just
I usually do that almost every time that comes through, because it can be really interesting.
I love to see it, but
Especially where you are.
I always miss it. I go, oh, it was great. Look, we missed this one. We go and get a lounge chair, go outside with a blanket because it's in the 50s, and stare up at the sky and try to sleep. No, it's too cold to fall asleep. But anyway, no, it's great. I mean, and there's no light here. We're pretty far from town, so
You are. No, it's amazing.
Yeah,
So, any last words you want to say for maybe people who are thinking about being into collecting or wanting to maybe do something with museums, because you've actively done things with museums most of your life now.
Yeah, I'd say buy what you like. Don't buy what someone else tells you is great. If you don't like it, don't buy it.
Yeah.
And don't buy it for appreciation, because it takes a long time for that to happen. And as far as museums go, they're all worthy of your attention and your help, and they always need volunteers, and they always need money.
Yeah.
That's the number one thing. People will say, well, doesn't the Eiteljorg want to buy that painting? And I said, the Eiteljorg doesn't buy paintings normally. Most of the things are given to them, or we sell something and set up a fund and buy things that we're missing in our collection. But normally the museum, that doesn't happen.
Yeah. So I will say this, buying these contemporary native artists for the last 20 years was a very, very smart move for a museum to do.
It's very different from the Western art that my father collected, for sure. Yeah. But it's very interesting. The people are very interesting. It's a big deal. I mean, we've been told we really have a great collection. Plus, the prizes that the people get is very appreciated.
Yeah,
appreciated by them, and it's a good thing that we do. And
I'm
very pleased that we have it. And everybody, all the staff that works at the museum, I mean, they work hard. It's tough. It's a not an easy job every day, working with these things, making sure everything, the humidity, the this, the that, I'm on the facilities committee, keeping an old building going. I mean, it's a lot. I mean, I laugh because I don't laugh, but I think people go, well, I want to have my own museum. I'm thinking, I can understand why. It's nice, but it's just not putting your name on something and giving your collection. It's got to continue going forward, which is hard to keep going, because it's always, you
have to endow it. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of moving parts.
A lot of museums, and a lot of them are very great museums, but wow, it's this COVID. I mean, you get that, you have no people coming in to see it, no missions, no this, keeping things going. It was.
Yeah, and I take it your museum, the Eiteljorg, did well through COVID?
We did.
Got through it, I guess.
Yeah. We did well. We were lucky. But, it's tough. We had to do everything online like this, Zoom. If it hadn't been for the pandemic, we probably wouldn't be doing this.
Right. Well, we could also pitch the museum right now that they're going to be looking for a director. So anybody who's out there who's qualified, and I underline qualified.
Yeah. We are. Yeah. We're looking
for
June of next year. Hopefully we'll get him before John leaves, so he can give him sort of help him out with finding out what needs to be done. But
Yeah, tell John I'm gonna be calling on him to do a podcast too.
That'd be good.
I think it's very important just to hear his story. He was your museum director for like 16 years or something.
26.
26 years. Sorry, John.
And when he came, he didn't know anything about Western art.
Yeah. Yeah,
And you think, well, you got to hire some of those Western art. Not necessarily.
No, you
If
don't.
you're a good administrator and you're a good fundraiser and
That's the most
you'll learn
important.
that. He learned it all. Now he's very
Yeah.
knowledgeable, probably a lot more than I am. But
Well, you can learn those things. You can teach those things. The other skill set for fundraising and facilities and administration,
managing people,
administration.
very
Those are the key factors.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's really not whether you know the art. It helps to have an art background, helps to like art, but that's really not what they're looking for anymore.
No.
I think
Managing people, that's the most difficult thing there is to do.
You're a CEO, basically.
Yeah. You're responsible for everything.
Yep. And a big legacy. I mean, somebody comes in Eiteljorg. I mean, that's your legacy too. And
we've only had 3 directors in
wow,
30 something years. So
yep. Well, hopefully the word will get out and you'll get somebody.
Yeah, I'm sure it's out. He just announced yesterday.
Yeah, I got
where you got something. So
yeah, I did. All right, I will let you go. Thank you for taking the time.
Thanks for letting me do this, Mark. I always enjoy talking to you.
Yeah, I know you're very low key today, Roger.
Am I?
Yeah.
Well, I don't do this as often as you do.
No, I know. Well, I will look forward to talking to you very soon in the future, but thank you so much for.
All right, thank you.
Say hi to Mindy for me.
I'll do it. Say hi to Kathleen. See you later.
All right, bye-bye.